everyone.
Hello, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Heather, for joining us. And thank you guys for joining us for episode 4 of Strange Readings of Reference Search into the Unknown. This week we're going to be doing Elisa Lam, the famous case that happened in Los Angeles. But first, let me go ahead and introduce my guest, Heather.
Yes, hello, everyone. My name is Miss Heather, and I'm one of the children's librarians here at the McAllen Public Library. I do a whole bunch of really fun stuff with the children's department. Right now, I have a running program called Spy School. You can see every Sunday. And then my coworker Liz and I take turns with our Steam Tales every Wednesday. And my Steam Tales will be coming up this next Wednesday. So not this Wednesday, one after.
That's cool. Nice. So before we get started, I do want to give a heads up. I know that Heather's a children's librarian, but go ahead.
This content is not for my typical audience. So if your kiddos are seeing Miss Heather on here and going, "Oh, Miss Heather, what's she going to teach us about?" Unfortunately, this is not appropriate for anyone under the age of 13. So you guys are going to want to let the little ones watch something else. Just about anything available on the MPL Kids Facebook is going to be great for them. But this one, not so much. I get to talk about grown-up things this time.
Yes, and I know some of you kids that are under 13 are watching this. Get out now. I was one of those kids.
We're watching you, and we want to make sure that you're safe. So, either navigate away to something from MPL Teens or MPL Kids, or get permission from your grown-up before you watch the rest of this.
All right. And one more thing, guys, comments and opinions are welcome. We just ask that you be nice and respectful of each other. And we love to hear your thoughts, your theories, and whatever else that you might come up with once we talk about this case.
Yeah. And you don't have to agree with us. Both of us have opinions about what could have happened in this case. But if you have something different, share it with us. We love to hear other opinions and other perspectives on things. Having that kind of diverse thinking is what makes our world great.
Mm-hmm. So without further ado, let's talk about who was Elisa Lam. So let me go ahead and show my little presentation. Oops, you're smaller.
There we go.
Yeah, share screen. Here you go. Yeah. So we're going to go start from the top. Let me go back. Sorry, Prezi is great.
Oh, it has its quirks.
There you go.
There we go.
So we're going to start with who was Elisa. So here's a picture of Elisa. She was born April 30th, 1991. She was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, to Hong Kong immigrants David and Yina. She had one sister. So she was a Chinese Canadian. Her parents actually ran a restaurant outside of Vancouver, Paul's Restaurant, and actually you can still look it up. It's still up and running. So a little bit more about Elisa is that she had her hobbies. She had 2 blogs. The first one was called Otherfields, and the second one was called Nouvelle Nouveau. I am so sorry for my French. Yeah. I'm just gonna be like, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, yeah. So Otherfields was hosted on Blogspot. So and you can actually still find this blog, which I know might be a little unsettling for some people, but that's the internet for you. I mean, they archive everything, whether you're still alive or not.
Mm-hmm.
So she wrote a lot about her depression. She wrote about her worries about school, and she posted fashion photographs. She actually quoted Chuck Palahniuk for her profile, and it was, "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life." So, and unfortunately, I think this is what she kind of carried with her throughout. So she ran this blog until from 19 to 21. I think one post I put here kind of just, really explains how her mental well-being was. Quote, I spent about 2 days in bed hating myself. Why don't I simply do the things that I know will make me feel better? It isn't rocket science. It isn't that difficult. Get out of bed, eat, see people, talk to people, exercise, write, read. What's your take on that, Heather?
That's, something that I completely sympathize with. There are times when it's very, very hard. You know what you're supposed to do to help yourself, especially when you're in a depressive funk. But it's not always that easy to actually get yourself to do it.
Yeah.
So it can be, I completely understand where she's coming from. I understand the whole thing of like, this is what makes me happy. Why is it so hard for me to do it? So it's definitely an authentic take on struggling with mental illness. Honestly, it was very authentic to me. So she definitely had things that she was struggling with.
Absolutely. And moving from there, so she had another one, which on Tumblr. She moved there.
Nouvelle Nouveau.
Nouvelle Nouveau. I am so sorry to the French people who listen to me. But yeah, so she moved there on July 27, 2012. It's basically French terms to refer to new. I think it was kind of like a cute kind of way of making a pun, I think.
Yeah, it's wordplay on the idea of a novel concept and then what we call nouveau as being like something that's in fashion, in vogue. So, yeah, considering she was interested in fashion, it's a pretty clever wordplay.
So yeah. Unfortunately, when I went to check her Tumblr, it looks like you could still find it, but like it looks like all the posts are gone. I don't know if maybe the Tumblr sites, because of what happened, just took it down, but still kept the URL up. But
it's also possible because Tumblr had a whole bunch of issues with when they were transitioning over to a new platform, and they had a whole bunch of issues with their censorship, that things got taken down that they were flagged as being inappropriate for inappropriate in general, even though they didn't have anything in there that was pornographic or anything like that. A lot of times, a lot of that stuff got taken down. So it's also possible that her blog was just a victim of the algorithm incorrectly flagging all of her posts as being inappropriate. So that's one of the things that is very frustrating about the internet. Yes, we definitely have a thing of like, when it's on there, it's on there. But there's also the fact that there are all these possibilities of information and data just being lost because of algorithms, because of practices by different companies and things like that. So unfortunately, we lost a lot of her content, and we're not going to get that back because she's no longer with us. So,
and this is why libraries are still need to be depended on.
Indeed, definitely, digital preservation is something that is, I'm pretty passionate about it. Like, I think it's important that we keep things available on the internet because of circumstances like this, where that's a whole bunch of precious memories that her family could have of her that is now gone.
Definitely. So from there, according to other sources, like back when it was still up, it was similar to her blogspot. She talked about fashion and blogged about her mental health. It had the same Chuck Palahniuk quote. Okay, what did unnerve people, and this is where I'm going to have to use my little needle to pop out the balloon of worries people had. So after she had died, posts started showing up on her Tumblr as if she was still there blogging away. And I have a Tumblr, guys, and Tumblr has this feature where you can put posts on queue.
Yep.
And I've had friends that that have put queued up things as far ahead as into a year. Mm-hmm. So they show up, so like that way, so they don't have to worry about doing it later or like frequently updating their blog. It's totally normal. It was not a ghost at the keyboard.
Yes, it probably is very eerie to have that happen, have a friend pass away and then have their blog keep updating, but it is not anything paranormal. It's a function of the site. So,
Yes. So like I said before, she had some mental health issues. She suffered from anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. I couldn't find any resources that fully confirmed what type of bipolar disorder she had, but she was taking medication for it. And she did, it's, and like bipolar disorder has, the depression and manic episodes. So like I said, she also blogged a lot about how it affected herself, her school life. By the time we get into her case, she had only been able to complete like 3 classes over 3 years. So, she felt very vulnerable and very like, what am I going to do? I know she talked about wanting to go to graduate school. I couldn't see what she wanted to study. I kind of feel like the case kind of overshadowed her.
Yeah, we both expressed frustrations on that because usually with someone who has disappeared, who has captured the imaginations and the attention of so many people, you'll get stuff like she was studying to be a photographer. She was studying to do this. She wanted to go into, whatever. But for some reason, there's very little interest in what Elisa Lam would have been if this had not befallen her.
Definitely.
So that's very frustrating and sad to me.
Yeah.
But we can get into the politics of that later.
Yes. And I see Rudy has commented, when I die, my Tumblr will self-destruct.
I need that for my browser history.
We all need that for our browser history. I'm scared.
Whoever invents the ability to, like put in a thing of like the moment my heart stops beating, my browser history just, they will make millions.
Especially if you're writing a mystery novel and you don't want the FBI to come thinking that you're a murderer.
Yes. Especially like there are a lot of times I've done a Google search and I've ended it with, I promise I'm writing something. This is, don't worry about me, NSA. I know you're watching.
So moving on from that, we're going to talk about the trip to Los Angeles. So, as I said before, Elisa Lam was struggling in school and she wanted to take a break, and she was planning out a trip to the US. She wanted to see all the attractions on the West Coast. She also had wanted to go on the trip by herself, but she did promise her family that she would call them every day of the trip. I kind of always figured that she probably wanted to go on the trip just so she can prove to herself that she was an independent adult, which she was around her early 20s. I was kind of feeling that same way, so I could see why she wanted to do that. So on January 26th, Elisa was in Los Angeles. Her family got concerned when she didn't call them on January 31st, the day she was to check out to the hotel. And speaking of the hotel, the Cecil Hotel. So how is the reputation of the Cecil Hotel? Well,
it basically, if you've seen The Shining, any other kind of Stephen King deal, it definitely, the Cecil Hotel is something that, like, it has what you would call an intimidating aura. Like, the way you look at it, it's kind of run down. It's got the old neon signs on it. It's very blocky. It's very like austere. The architecture of it is not very welcoming. We'll put it that way. It's nicer on the inside. I did see a video where 2 men went inside and looked at the hotel. Granted, this is after its remodel, but it is not a pleasant looking place. And I imagine one of the main reasons she was there was because she was a college student and she probably did not have the funds to stay somewhere nice in Los Angeles.
It was very affordable, very cheap for her. Well, it also has its own Wikipedia page on deaths and violence, just pointing that out. Yeah, and from what I understand too, that there was it was kind of like a hostile kind of environment when she went in, which we can get through later. So, like I said, the history, it goes by Stay on Main nowadays. It tries to have itself as a boutique hotel. It was founded in the 1920s. It was supposed to be glitzy kind of a hotel, and then the Great Depression happened, and then I feel like one thing after another, just so many things kept piling up. The first documented suicide was committed in 1931, and actually a lot of suicides started occurring that people started referring to the Cecil as the suicide. Another case that was very troubling was in the 1960s was this elderly woman. She was around 79. Her name was Pigeon Goldie Osgood. She was known by residents for like feeding the birds and stuff. She was found dead in her hotel room, and she had been a long-time resident. She was found stabbed and beaten. There was also signs that she had been sexually assaulted. And here is the newspaper clipping of the first suicide. And another clipping for Pigeon Goldie. And yeah, that happened.
Yep. The hotel definitely has a reputation, and I feel like this is one of those cases where it sort of became its own self-fulfilled prophecy, in that once bad things start happening at a place, it starts getting a reputation. So where are bad things going to keep coming? Like, they're going to keep happening there because people are going to go there with certain intentions. And I can see why people would consider this hotel haunted or cursed or anything like that. But it seems more like it was cursed with its reputation and people following in on that reputation more than anything else. Yeah, it's a creepy looking place though too. Like, it's like a perfect storm. Because if this place had looked nice, then maybe it wouldn't have the same reputation and it wouldn't have attracted that kind of attention. But because it fit the bill of being a creepy old hotel, lots of stuff happened there that.
And supposedly, the Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, was seen at the bar in that hotel a few days prior to her death. And supposedly, two famous serial killers, one of them was the Night Stalker, supposedly stayed over there too. I mean, those are the rumors. I didn't find any legit sources. I think that's just saying.
Yeah. The Cecil has a reputation, and that's why now it is not the Cecil anymore, and they're trying to move away from that. But we'll see how successful they are at that.
So, January 31st, 2013, Elisa Lam was supposed to check out of the Cecil because she was planning to go to Santa Cruz after Los Angeles. Her family contacted LAPD, and the family actually went to Los Angeles themselves to search for her. So the last time the hotel staff saw anything of her, she was by herself. Like, she was actually visiting an owner at a nearby bookstore said that she saw her on her last day. According to Katie Orphan, Elisa was just shopping for gifts for her family, and she was, quote, outgoing, very lively, very friendly. She was talking about what book she was getting and whether or not whatever she was getting would be too heavy for her to carry around as she traveled. Like, I just want to say that this girl looked like she had plans after this trip. So this is where we get into the water tank. So
this is going to be the more gruesome part of things. So if you are sensitive to things like murder and bodies and whatnot, this might be the time to tune out for a little bit. But this is the unfortunate gory details.
So black water started happening at the Cecil. So while the next 2 weeks or so the search for Elisa was going on, the hotel had something going with the water. Guests were reporting about low water pressure in the rooms, but even worse than that, some people had found that their tap water was black and tasted strange. Why you would taste black water, I don't know.
From what I understand, some people weren't sure about whether it was normal or not for LA, which if you come from a place where the water supply is not necessarily the best, I guess I can understand feeling like, oh, maybe we just need to let it run for a little bit here. Like maybe this is normal.
Ay.
But the idea is still,
I'm just my face. I'm just like, nope, 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 nope.
So, and there have been multiple different like fictionalized things that have occurred because of this. People talking about like, the one that I know well enough is the How to Get Away with Murder, the very first season. The murder that is being solved is inspired by this. But there was also another like a horror story inspired by it. Yeah. So you guys can guess where poor Elisa winded up.
So, yeah, Grace has the best emoji to represent how we're all feeling about this right now. So on February 19th, 2013, this was like around 2 weeks after Elisa disappeared, a maintenance employee, Santiago Lopez, who should really get a bonus for what he had to go through, went to check the water tanks. He went up to the roof and he noticed that a hatch to one of the tanks was open. He peered inside. So inside the water tank was Elisa Lam. According to the autopsy report, her body was in moderate decomposition. She was floating naked in the tank. Her clothes and other things beside her, like her keys and watch, were beside her in the water. Yeah.
Poor Elisa.
Yeah. Yeah, to say it was upsetting is to say the least. I just can't imagine just seeing that visual.
Mm-hmm. So the discovery of her body was gruesome enough, but what actually really captured people's attention about this case is what we're going to look at next, because this video circulated on the internet. I remember seeing it. I remember talking about it with friends and having our own theories about it. But this video is basically what took this case from just being a murder investigation to being something that a lot of people had conspiracy theories and whatnot about, from the mundane to the paranormal. So,
and sorry, Grace. Sorry
to ruin your lunch, Grace.
I should probably do that in the warnings now. And
I bottled water from now on, Grace. Just never drink tap water again.
So let me see if I can play this video. It should work. Here you go. It's going in. So here we see Elisa. This is the last day before she disappeared. So as you can see, she's pushing a lot of buttons.
Yeah. And when she walks into the elevator, she doesn't seem to have that much of a purpose when she's going in. She's kind of swinging her arms. She's like, she's not moving with like, I'm going to go down to the lobby and I'm going to do this. She seems to be worried too about someone outside of the elevator, because she hides, she peeks around the corner.
Yeah.
Obviously bothering her a lot. There were people that analyzed her body language and said that she was acting more coy and flirtatious, and like she was, maybe she was trying to hide from someone playfully, but I don't know. I don't get that from her. And especially knowing the condition that she suffered with. Her body language to me says that she's frightened of something.
Yeah. I feel like here it looks like she's looking at something we can't see. Like it's just really hard to decipher. I feel like she's hallucinating.
Almost. Yeah. Potentially she's either hallucinating or she's interacting with someone outside of where we can see on the camera, because this is a stationary security camera in the elevator. There's a lot that we can see.
Yeah. And I know people are asking like why the elevator was staying open. Well, a lot of older elevators, I know when you press a lot of buttons, they stay open for quite a bit. It's usually to help the people that are doing catering or whatever to get the stuff inside before they go up or down. Here you see her moving her arms, twitching. Yeah,
And the way she's gesturing, it's hard to, that's one of the things when you are trying to figure out what somebody is communicating when you don't have sound, is you look at their hands, you look at what they're gesturing about, what they're moving, like, and I cannot figure out if she was trying to sign something to someone, like what she was trying to do with her hands. So it seems more of like a twitch than an actual, like, I'm intentionally doing this to convey something.
Yeah, it is unsettling, especially if you don't know the context at all. And I think people are still questioning what the context is. So going from there, what was going on? So it was released by LAPD on February 15th. It took place February 1st. So a lot of people actually criticized LAPD because some people felt that the video was edited, the timestamp was obscured, and they felt that parts of it were slowed down, and a minute of the footage looked like it was removed. I'm going to play devil's advocate and say they probably removed some things because maybe there was a person there that had no involvement, and just to protect privacy or something.
Plus, I'm going to say that the quality of the footage is not very good. There's a good possibility that camera was not, like, there may have been parts of the film that were unusable. Mostly because, like, if you look at the Cecil Hotel, it looks like it's in disrepair. It looks like it's not the nicest place. So I could see that the camera footage, maybe not being as usable. Maybe they were still using analog tape and they re-recorded over it. There's a whole bunch of possibilities. But like, regardless of what we get, whether things were cut out or not, it still leaves a lot of questions as to what was going on, why she was doing what she was doing.
So I do feel like I have some explanation of what went on. I'm going to play a bit of a skeptic for today's episode. So here's the thing about bipolar disorder. And yes, I was able to find Elisa Lam's autopsy result. It was a little surprising how easy that was, but and another thing too, people were upset because the autopsy report wasn't immediately released, and it's like, people, those things take time.
They take time, and honestly, if you are a member of the public who is not associated with her, they're really not your business. If anything, the autopsy report should have been released to the investigators, to her family, to the people who personally knew her, not to the general public. It seems like a thing where, because people got involved in this and got tied up in the conspiracy theories, especially the paranormal ones, they wanted the information, they wanted to know. And truthfully, like, that's a privacy issue that rubs me a bit the wrong way.
And so I did manage to get the autopsy result. I think they did publicize it somehow. I think after, people on the internet were angry. So the day she died, she had to take, so first of all, the reports and the toxicology said she did not take any drugs like cocaine or meth or anything like that. The only thing she had in her were her medications. The day she died, she had taken one antidepressant. Recently, but not that day, she had taken her second antidepressant and her mood stabilizer. She had not taken her antipsychotic recently before she died. She had quite a number of prescriptions, and part of me wonders if maybe because she was, traveling a lot, she just lost track of what medication she was supposed to keep up with. So it was likely she fell into a manic episode. So mania is very It's like the opposite. It's the exact opposite of depression, hence bipolar disorder. You're erratic. You start having these weird motivations to do something. You're just like, I got to. You're on edge. And from what I understand too, some people tend to hallucinate and whatnot during this period or hear voices. So, and it's also very dangerous for people with bipolar disorder to only take antidepressant medication and nothing else. And it's a problem too because there's bias in the medical world, and men that have depression are more likely to be diagnosed with bipolar disorder, while women that actually do have bipolar disorder are more likely to be prescribed antidepressants because they think, oh, she just has depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the dangerous part of antidepressants is they're fantastic if you are in a certain state of mind where, like what she described on her blog, where she was having trouble getting out of bed, she was having trouble like engaging with the things that made her happy. Antidepressants tend to take the edge off of one of those moods and get you a little bit further. It doesn't completely cure you. It doesn't make you happy, but it takes the weight off of your shoulders in terms of, why can't I engage with the world in a positive way? It gives you the option to do that. The problem is if you are in a different state of mind and you take an antidepressant, that actually can encourage people to complete suicide. So that's the issue that you can run into with just taking an antidepressant. It can encourage less positive results, we'll put it that way. So
yeah, and I know people are pointing out, like, why were her hands going like this? That's another symptom of bipolar. Like I said before, you can't sit still. You're agitated. You're clenching your fist. Your hand wringing. You're moving your wrist. It's called psychomotor agitation, and it can happen. I don't think it happens in every single case of bipolar disorder, but yeah, it can happen. And we actually have some good books that we can recommend you to check out if you want to read more on bipolar disorder, which is also known as manic depression. I read An Unquiet Mind. It's the first book here. It's really good. It's a memoir. It's beautifully written, and the author, she has bipolar disorder, but she also works in the psychology field, so her perspective is very interesting. Carrie Fisher has also written a lot about her bipolar disorder, and you can check out Wishful Drinking in the main branch or Palmview branch. I haven't checked out this book, Detour, My Bipolar Road Trip in a 4D by Lizzie Simon, but I've heard good stuff about that one as well.
And I know our teen department also has a bunch of resources for anyone who wants to get either a younger perspective on things or wants something that might have a simpler text to it, or maybe less adult situations. I know that the mental health library in teens is excellent. There's a lot of really good stuff out there for young adults. So that's another place to check out. Children's not so much, but I'm working on that. I'm in charge of that section of the Dewey Decimal System, so I'm working on it. I'll get there. I've got All Birds Have Anxiety coming in, and I'm excited for that. So let's go to the juicy part, the theories.
So I'll start with the favorite ones the internet has. It was a demon that possessed her, or a ghost.
Yes, or that she was interacting with the ghosts of the serial killers that were at that hotel. Why their ghosts would be there, I don't know. I'm fairly certain both of them died in different places, one in jail. So
yeah.
I'm not sure why that. Maybe just because serial killer ghost is scary. But yeah, there's a belief that either she was possessed by a ghost or that she was being haunted by one, which is why she seems to be like peeking, looking for someone, having a conversation with someone who's not there. And because the Cecil is a spooky, creepy place, there's some sort of, maybe there's a hellmouth underneath it. Who knows? That's one of the theories. Another one that I've seen of where the ghost came from that came after her was when she pushes all the buttons on the elevator. There is supposedly, and I don't know how authentic this is, but there is supposedly an Asian game called the elevator game that originated in Japan and South Korea. The idea is that if you push a certain combination of buttons in an elevator, said elevator will take you to another realm of existence. And when you come back, you might bring something evil with you.
So this is Japanese and South Korean.
And you'll notice that Elisa Lam, her family, does not come from those parts of Asia.
She's Chinese Canadian. And
so, there's a lot to unpack there in terms of the internet jumping to this thing of like, she was playing the elevator game. How do you know if she even knew about the elevator game? Are you just making assumptions because of her background?
Yeah, and it's kind of like, let's say I was in Elisa Lam's case and I'm Mexican. Suddenly there's going to be this Venezuelan game.
yes, or a Spanish game because you know they speak the same language, so of course you're the same
culture,
right?
Like I wish people.
Some people would be very upset with me if I was saying that honestly. If I was saying that without any irony, no, that is a issue that I'm very frustrated with the fact that people jumped immediately to an Asian woman acting strangely. She's been possessed by a ghost from a Korean film or something like that. It's pulled over from obsessions with Asian horror movies and things like that. I remember what The Ring did in terms of changing the cinematic landscape for a while. People were obsessed with any kind of Japanese, Korean, Chinese horror stories, and unfortunately, that has conflated into stereotypes for Asian cultures, which is very unfortunate, especially when there's someone dies mysteriously, and you know. Probably, we should probably take it seriously instead of saying ghost.
Yeah, it's
fun to say ghost. It's fun to think that there was a demon or something like that, but all it really does is do a disservice to Elisa and her family.
And and another thing too. This is a ghost friendly atmosphere. I am going to go into more ghost stories and stuff.
Yeah. We have to talk about the library ghost at some point. I'll have to see if I can get him like knocking over books and making recommendations to us.
You hear
his
that?
His name's Chadwick.
John Wick?
Chadwick.
Okay, we call him John in our end.
No, the one that hangs out in children's is named Chadwick, and he makes book recommendations for us because we'll have a whole bunch of books standing up, and he'll just randomly knock one over. And we're like, thank you, Chad. I'll give that a look.
See, I thought I heard you say John Wick, and I got excited.
Oh no! I would love my library to be haunted by Keanu Reeves. Are you kidding me? Yeah. All the girls in children's would be like, Keanu, you can stay.
Yeah, stay after hours.
Yes. No, we won't. You're the one patron we will not force to leave at 6 o'clock.
So
okay, next theory, because the icky racist ghosts go away.
Yes. So another one is that some people feel like that there was still someone involved. I should mention that the official ruling was that it was an accidental drowning, and some people think that some people think that because, like I said before, she had some roommates in the beginning, and the roommates were kind of like annoyed, confused by her, and they had to be separated. I mean, I can understand why people feel like there was another person, because I think people don't understand is that people with mental illness or are more likely to be harmed rather than they harming other people. You know, like, did someone see Elisa having her manic episode, and did they take advantage of that? And
she was. You can tell by the elevator, regardless of what your belief is, what's going on there. You can tell she's in a vulnerable state, and there is the possibility that somebody took advantage of that. The other arguments I've heard about it is that she is not a. You can see she is not a large, imposing person.
no,
She doesn't look like the kind of person that has a lot of upper body strength. And the lid to the cistern was very heavy. So the argument I would have there of like, maybe somebody picked it up and then threw her in. Number one, why would they throw all the rest of her stuff in there with her? They would probably do their best to make sure that her ID, all of her sort of stuff is gone.
Yeah.
Because it would be, especially if they don't expect them to find the body until it's fully decomposed, then she would have been a Jane Doe, and there's a possibility they would have never figured out who she was.
Yeah.
Two, like, when you are in a state that she was in with the mania and stuff, we saw what she was doing with her hands and everything. Those were unnatural kind of things that people don't normally do intentionally with their hands. If she had enough adrenaline, she could have picked it up. I'm curious how she got it back on again. But, you know, that's one of the cases of, you know, the body has these reserves. And if she thought her life was in danger, or she was just so convinced that she had to do this, the adrenaline may have allowed her to.
Actually, actually the hatch was found open.
There's found open. Okay.
Yeah, there's some sources that are still around saying that it was closed, but all other cats are like, no, it was actually open. So it's more likely then that she went in there by herself.
And then that also throws that theory of somebody else being involved out the window. Why would you not close it?
Right.
You know, why would you leave it open?
I mean, that's the first tank that the maintenance worker saw, and she went to check it out. I mean, I feel like if I was a killer, I would try to close everything down, so at least it will be longer for them to find the body before I go. Not that I have thought about this before, people. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the thing is, like, the other option is we are applying logic to this. And we all know that logic does not always fit with motives when someone is, you know, murdering someone. That is like, if logic was involved, you wouldn't murder them to begin with, because like the risk there is just so big. Like, you know, murder is not logical anyway. So trying to apply logic of like, close the thing so you don't get found, throw away her stuff so nobody knows who they, you know.
Yeah.
If someone did murder her, they may not have had the wherewithal. They may not have been in the right headspace to think that far.
Yeah. And we read a lot of true crime, so.
Yes.
And another thing too, people are asking, how did she access the rooftop? So after she died, actually a lot of people started going to the Cecil Hotel and started showing, like, there was these two Chinese tourists that actually show, like, actually it's easy to go to the rooftop. You just go through the fire escape. I believe, Heather, you mentioned that to me earlier that a dog had smelled her scent on one of the windows.
Yeah, this was a recent thing that came out from one of the officers that was on the case. Something that didn't come out was that one of the the dogs that they take to the crime scene identified her scent on one of the windows. So there was a lot of talk of like, well, she couldn't have gone this way because it would have set off an alarm, and an alarm didn't go off. But the fire escape access through the window would not have set off an alarm. So, and since they found her scent on the window, it's pretty likely that she climbed through it, she went up the fire escape, and that's how she accessed the room.
I do also found some interesting things that apparently some people were saying that, oh yeah, in her Tumblr there were photographs of people being submerged in water for kind of like an aesthetic look. And
She
that,
also took pictures of cityscapes from
yeah,
what I understand. So it may have started as I'm going to go up top and find a good place to take a picture, and then
mhm,
it went further into, oh, I could do a submerged picture here. Oh, let me see what this feels like. Let's plan this out, and then
yeah. I mean, ultimately, we might not know what Elisa was thinking, but I will say that, that I think our theory, the theory I favor is that, she was having a manic episode and she had this need to just go into the rooftop, and she went inside the tank and she just didn't know how to get out. And my heart breaks thinking about that. And I understand why some people don't want to go to that theory, because she had to suffer doing
yes.
that.
Yeah, at least with the idea of like a ghost or a demon taking her over, maybe like she wasn't conscious for it.
Yeah.
The idea of somebody murdering her and dumping her body in there. There's this whole thing of like, well, maybe that she got choked. Maybe like she had a quick, relatively painless death, but unfortunately, it does not seem that way.
And the autopsy report said nothing about any suspicious marks on her.
Yeah. And those cisterns are not meant to climb into. Like, therefore, they're not built to be climbed out of either.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a good possibility that this was just a thing that she did on a whim, and it cost her her life.
Her family did try to sue the hotel, and the lawsuit unfortunately got dismissed because, the family really believed, like, hey, if you guys hadn't put more preventative measures in that hotel, this would not have happened.
And considering the fact that the hotel was known to be a suicide spot, you would think they would have more protective measures, if only to avoid that negative press and the cleanup and the paperwork and just all the things that are involved. But obviously that isn't the case.
Yeah.
It's very sad because, there have been people that have jumped from that building. And I worry that more people will, if they're, right now her case isn't really in the popular conscience because it's been 7 years. But if another one happens or something comes up to dig this back up again and bring it to the surface, I worry about more people, in suit.
Yeah, and the community reached out to the family. There were a lot of like loving notes and cards sent to the family's restaurant. And I think we got to remember, a daughter and a sister and a friend was lost in this. And and I keep thinking she was just a year younger than me when she died. And I keep thinking, she could probably have a good life, be settled.
She had a very long, very wonderful life in front of her, especially because she seemed to be the kind of person that had a drive. She was artistic. She was fighting her mental illness. She was trying very, very hard. And she expressed the fact that she was she knew what was going on and she was fighting it. But unfortunately, that it didn't pan out for her, and it breaks my heart that it didn't. But it is very odd that this case just kind of took over the internet for a while.
Yeah.
So many people had so many theories. One of the ones that I saw that was really like, I can't take it seriously. For one, I cannot take it seriously. I'm sorry, but it was very imaginative for me. Was that if you look at older maps of the area where the mainstay / Cecil is, there was a company called the Invisible Light Agency that used to be there. Nobody knows what this company was for. Especially now, because as soon as this became popular, a whole bunch of bands were like, that's an amazing band name. So now if you Google that, you get their Spotify and you get you get their SoundCloud and all that. But there were theories that she knew more than she should. She saw something she shouldn't have. And people from this invisible light agency were tracking her and using things like invisibility cloaks and stuff like that to harass her. So it's paranormal, not just that she was possessed by a demon. She took an elevator to a new dimension.
Apparently, she upset the Men in Black. I don't know.
Yes, there is always the shadow government agency theory out there.
And this is a bunch of men with fedoras and sunglasses. Just
they all look like that Magritte painting with the apple in front of them. Only it's a flashlight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still capturing people's imagination.
Yeah.
I think the main issue, though, to me, is that I think Elisa was done a disservice.
Yeah.
That her death is so prominent out there, but she had a life. Like she lived through 20 some years of fighting bipolar disorder, like in being interested in fashion, having dreams, doing her photography. You know, she had a life, she had a passion. And the fact that you can't find information about that breaks my heart. I think that, yes, her death was mysterious, but like her life had worth too.
Yeah.
And I would see more about what she did during her life, other than, you know, that mysterious elevator video.
She would have been around 29 years old as of this year, just to let everyone know. Like I said, she could have been in grad school. She could have had a career, her family of her own, and now she can't. And we need to honor that. We need to honor the Elisa Lam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we need to respect her family. You know, having use your imagination. I'm a children's librarian. I'm going to tell you, imaginations are wonderful. Create, think of things, use your brain, do what you need to do to express yourself, have a creative outlet. Do so respectfully, especially when it comes to someone who is deceased and who's the cause of their death is mysterious, is unexplained. Definitely. So I did have someone in my family who passed away for unexplained reasons, and it can be very devastating to not have that closure. Yeah. So it's one of those things of, yes, fine, you know, go with your theory of the invisible light agency, but let her family grieve and let her family, you know, realize that there's going to be that hole in their lives. Give them respect, give them privacy, give them space.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on here, Heather. We're going to wrap up now, and thank you guys for listening and your comments. Like I said, comments are always welcome.
Yes, definitely. If you see this afterwards and you want to talk about it a little bit, do so in the comments, because we're happy to talk more about this. I'm happy to talk more about this. I get to talk about things that are not children related for once. Wow.
We're gonna see what I'm gonna have planning out for July soon. But anyway, I want everyone to take care and have a great day. All right, bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.